The era of the Shadow War is over. For 47 years, the relationship between Washington and Tehran was defined by a cold, calculated distance. It was a conflict fought in the margins, through proxies in the Levant, cyber attacks in the dark, and deniable assassinations in the streets of Baghdad. But on the morning of February 28, 2026, the margin disappeared. The world woke up to a reality that many thought was a relic of the 20th century. Open, kinetic, and total warfare between a superpower and a regional hegemon. As of today, March 2, 2026, the geopolitical map of the Middle East has been scorched. In a matter of 72 hours, the political order of the Islamic Republic of Iran has effectively collapsed. The synchronized execution of Operation Epic Fury by the United States and Operation Lion's Roar by Israel has done what decades of sanctions could not. It has decapitated the clerical leadership, paralyzed the Revolutionary Guard, and sent a shockwave through the global economy that has yet to find its floor. But as the smoke clears over the Pasteur Street compound in Tehran, the victory feels heavy. The decapitation of a regime is not the end of a war. It is the beginning of a vacuum. With Ayatollah Khamenei dead, the Strait of Hormuz closed, and oil prices surging by 13% in a single morning, the world is finding out that the cost of ending a 4-decade rivalry might be a global catastrophe. Today, we go inside the tactical architecture of the most significant military strike of the 21st century. We will explore the daylight strategy that caught the IRGC off guard, the technological debut of the LUCS suicide drones, and the terrifying multi-front escalation that has now drawn Hezbollah into a total war. Authority is quiet, because for the first time in nearly half a century, the Islamic Republic is silent. To understand the violence of February 28th, you have to understand the diplomatic rot of the preceding months. By late 2000, the Geneva Channel had become a theater of the absurd. The Trump administration, returning to its maximum pressure roots, had presented Tehran with a framework that was essentially a demand for unconditional surrender. Washington didn't just want a halt to 60% uranium enrichment. They demanded the total dismantling of the ballistic missile program and the immediate severance of all ties to the axis of resistance, Hezbollah, Hamas, and the Houthis. Tehran, sensing domestic weakness in the West and emboldened by its growing ties to Moscow and Beijing, called the bluff. Throughout February 2026, the rhetoric reached a fever pitch. In his State of the Union address, President Trump labeled the clerical government an imminent threat, a phrase that signaled the transition from containment to preemption. The Omani impasse. On February 20th, 22/6, the ultimatum was delivered. 10 days to comply or face force never seen before. Omani Foreign Minister Badr al-Busaidi attempted a final desperate mediation on February 26th, but the talks collapsed within hours. The Iranian negotiators refused to budge on the peaceful purpose of their enrichment, and the U.S. delegation walked out. The fragility factor. Internal intelligence played a massive role here. Iran was already reeling from a series of mass protests in early 2006. The IRGC's violent crackdown, which left thousands dead, signaled to the Pentagon that the regime was brittle. The Trump administration calculated that the Iranian people wouldn't fight for a regime that was already killing them. They viewed the Islamic Republic not as a monolithic power, but as a hollowed-out fortress waiting for a single decisive blow. At 8:10 local time on February 28th, the world changed. Standard military doctrine dictates that major air campaigns begin under the cover of darkness to maximize the advantage of stealth and electronic warfare. But Operation Epic Fury threw the manual away. This was a daylight strategy. The choice was both psychological and tactical. First, it achieved total surprise. The Iranian leadership, expecting a nighttime assault like the 1-2-day war of 2025, was literally at their desks. Second, the daylight timing ensured that the senior command structure of the IRGC and the clerical elite would be present in their administrative offices and command centers, not in their bunkers. The arsenal of Epic Fury, this wasn't just a bombing run. It was a technological integration showcase. The Lucas system. For the first time, we saw the combat deployment of the low-cost unmanned combat attack system. These are essentially suicide swarms. Thousands of cheap AI-linked drones designed to saturate and blind Iran's integrated air defense systems, IADS. They acted as the digital vanguard, forcing Iranian radars to stay active while F-35s and B-2 Spirits moved in for the kill. The B-2 Spirit, While the drones handled the decoys, the stealth bombers delivered the heavy metal. 2,000-pound bunker buster munitions were dropped with surgical precision on the hardened facilities at Natanz and Fordo, reaching depths that previous campaigns had only scratched. The sea axis. From the Persian Gulf and the Mediterranean, U.S. Navy destroyers launched waves of Tomahawk land attack missiles. These weren't aimed at military bases. They were aimed at the nervous system of the state, communication hubs, power grids, and intelligence headquarters. The coordination between the U.S. Central Command and the Israeli Defense Forces, IDF, was seamless. While the U.S. focused on the grand strategy targets, nuclear and governmental, the Israeli Lion's Roar focused on the immediate tactical threats. Missile silos, drone factories, and the air defense batteries that could threaten the return flight of the strike packages. It was the decapitation of the Iranian hierarchy. Intelligence provided by the Mossad and the CIA pinpointed a high-level emergency meeting taking place at a secure compound on Pasteur Street in central Tehran. At 9:40 local time, a series of long-range precision strikes reduced the facility to what witnesses described as gray dust and debris. Within hours, President Trump confirmed on Truth Social, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei was dead. The 37-year reign of the Supreme Leader ended not in a hospital, but in the ruins of his own command center. The strike reportedly killed not just the leader, but members of his immediate family, signaling to the remaining regime loyalists that there was no safe harbor left in Iran. The eradication of the security cabinet. The first 48 hours of the war saw the systematic elimination of the Axis architects. General Mohammad Pakpour, the chief of the IRGC ground forces, the man responsible for the belt of proxies, was confirmed dead. Aziz Nasirzadeh, the defense minister and the brain behind the ballistic missile program, erased. Ali Shamkhani, the veteran advisor who had survived the 2025 campaign, his luck finally ran out. By the morning of March 1st, the U.S. estimated that 48 senior leaders had been neutralized. This wasn't just a loss of personnel, it was the total destruction of the regime's command and control. The candidates the U.S. had previously identified as potential moderates for a transitional government were also present in the targeted districts. In 1 hour, Washington didn't just kill its enemies, it accidentally killed the alternative. Despite the loss of their central brain, the remaining IRGC cells activated a pre-planned, automated retaliatory protocol, Operation Truthful Promise 4. Even without a supreme leader, the axis of resistance is a machine built to fail deadly. Within hours of the Tehran strikes, hundreds of ballistic missiles and one-way attack drones were launched from mobile platforms across the Iranian plateau. The siege of the Fifth Fleet, the command headquarters of the U.S. Fifth Fleet in Bahrain took a direct hit. Iranian state media broadcast footage of Qadr 380 missiles striking the terminal facilities and a combat support ship. Bahrain, direct missile impacts caused fires at the port. Kuwait and Qatar, Al Udeid and Ali Al Salem air bases reported multiple interceptions, but the shrapnel and missed targets caused casualties among U.S. personnel. The UAE, in Abu Dhabi, Iranian drones successfully targeted civilian infrastructure, a deliberate move to signal to the Gulf states that their safety was tied to Tehran's survival. CENTCOM has confirmed that 3 U.S. service members were killed, and 5 were seriously wounded. This wasn't a military victory for Iran, but it was a demonstration of asymmetric reach. They proved that even in their death throes, they could reach out and touch the icons of American power in the Gulf. While Iran burned, the Axis began to expand the battlefield. In Israel, the town of Beit Shemesh became a symbol of the conflict's civilian toll. An Iranian ballistic missile, bypassing the Iron Dome, struck a residential block, killing 9 people and burying 28 others under the rubble. In Tel Aviv, the sirens haven't stopped. Ben Gurion Airport has become a bunker, with passengers fleeing to shelters as missiles rain down from the east. But the most dangerous development occurred on March 2nd. Hezbollah, the most powerful non-state military in the world, shattered the November 2024 ceasefire. Massed rocket salvos began pouring into northern Israel from southern Lebanon. The Israeli response has been apocalyptic. The IAF has launched saturation raids on Beirut's southern suburbs and the eastern Bekaa Valley. This is no longer a surgical strike on Iran. It is a regional conflagration. The ceasefire is dead. The negative stability of the Levant is gone. We are now looking at a war that stretches from the Mediterranean to the Caspian Sea. With Khamenei gone, the Islamic Republic is facing an existential question. Who is left to lead? Under the Constitution, an interim leadership council has been formed. It consists of President Masoud Pezeshkian, Chief Justice Mohseni Ejei, and the newly appointed interim Supreme Leader, Ayatollah Alireza Arafi. Arafi is an enigma. At 67, he is a senior cleric, but he is also a technological traditionalist. He is known for his advocacy of using artificial intelligence for ideological dissemination. He represents the last remnants of the clerical elite, but he is governing a country where the command structure has been vaporized. The IRGC Kingmakers, the Assembly of Experts, the body that chooses the permanent leader, was itself decimated in the February 28th strikes. The procedural path to a new leader is blocked by debris. Mojtaba Khamenei, the son of the late leader, he has the backing of the security apparatus, but his candidacy is haunted by the hereditary ghost. The 1979 revolution was fought to end monarchical rule. To install a son would be a betrayal of the regime's own founding myth. Ali Larijani, the pragmatic secretary of the Security Council. He is managing the war, but he lacks the clerical rank to be the supreme leader. Analysts expect that the IRGC, as the only cohesive institution left with a functioning radio, will become the ultimate kingmaker. They won't pick a moderate. They will pick a wartime hardliner who will prioritize the survival of the military apparatus over the survival of the state. As the missiles fly, the global economy is bleeding out. On Monday, March 2nd, the markets opened to a geopolitical shock. Brent crude surged 13% in minutes, hitting $82.37. The Persian Gulf, which handles 20% of the world's oil and nearly a quarter of its LNG, has effectively closed for business. The no-go zone, the Strait of Hormuz, is a parking lot. More than 150 tankers are currently sitting idle outside the strait, waiting for security guarantees that the U.S. Navy cannot yet provide. Iran has issued radio warnings that any transit will be treated as a hostile act. For Europe, which relies on Qatari LNG to survive the post-Russian energy landscape, this is a catastrophe. The India bill. For net importers like India, the bill is devastating. Every $1 increase in oil adds $2 billion to India's annual import bill. Indian refiners are now in a mad scramble for West African and American crude. But the shipping lanes are clogged, and the prices are predatory. We are seeing a geopolitical premium that central banks are not prepared for. If the strait remains closed for more than 14 days, the $100 barrel is not just a possibility. It is a certainty. This isn't just a war in the Middle East, it is a tax on every human being on the planet. But there is another war happening, one that exists only in the servers of Silicon Valley. The 22/6 conflict is the first major war to be managed by generative AI. Reports have surfaced that the Pentagon pressured the AI giant Anthropic to strip the constitutional safeguards from its Claude model. The military wanted the AI to assist in operational target selection and real-time intelligence synthesis, tasks that the model's safety protocols were designed to prevent. The CEO's resistance, Dario Amodei, the CEO of Anthropic, reportedly sent an 800-word memo to the Pentagon, refusing to comply. He warned that removing these safeguards would lead to fully autonomous lethality and unchecked domestic surveillance. The response from Washington was swift. The administration has threatened to invoke the Defense Production Act to effectively nationalize Anthropic's compute resources. This is the first major clash of the AI age, a private tech company refusing to become a weapon of the state during a national emergency. It highlights a terrifying new friction. When the intelligence of a nation is owned by a corporation, who actually controls the war? China and Russia. Beijing and Moscow have issued a joint condemnation of the sovereign assassination. Foreign Minister Wang Yi characterized the strikes as a brazen violation of international law, while Russia has warned that this regime change by fire threatens the entire world order. The European quandary. France and Britain are in a state of diplomatic paralysis. While they share the goal of a non-nuclear Iran, they were neither warned nor consulted. President Macron has described the escalation as dangerous for all, fearing a new refugee crisis that Europe is utterly unprepared to manage. The United Nations has become a ghost. With the Security Council locked in a permanent veto loop, the international community has no mechanism to stop the expansion of the conflict. We are back to a state of nature in geopolitics, where power is the only currency that matters. Beyond the strategic maps and the oil prices, there is the human toll. While the decapitation strikes were aimed at offices, the nature of kinetic warfare in urban environments is never clean. In southern Iran, the Minab girls' school became the site of the war's greatest tragedy. A strike, attributed by local prosecutors to a U.S.-Israeli missile, hit the elementary school during morning classes, killing 150 people, mostly children. In Tehran, the Gandhi hospital was evacuated as the daylight strikes shook the city. Infants were moved to the streets in their incubators, while the sky turned gray with the dust of the Pasteur Street compound. Tens of thousands of Iranians are now fleeing. They are moving toward the Turkish and Iraqi borders, carrying what they can. At the Islam Kala crossing, the black flags of mourning have been raised. This is the humanitarian bill of Operation Epic Fury, a bill that the region will be paying for a generation. The events of February 28th to March 2nd, 2026, have effectively ended the 47-year-old political order of the Islamic Republic of Iran. The U.S. and Israel have achieved their immediate military goals. The Supreme Leader is dead. The IRGC command is vaporized. But as we have learned from Iraq, Libya, and Afghanistan, decapitation is not peace. The axis of resistance is still capable of closing the world's most important waterway. Hezbollah is still capable of leveling northern Israel. And the power vacuum in Tehran may lead to something even more dangerous than a clerical regime. A radical, decentralized military junta with nothing left to lose. We began by asking, what is the price of the finish line? In March 2000, the answer is unsettling. The price is a shattered regional order, a global energy crisis, and a future where the rules of international law have been replaced by the lion's roar. Authority is quiet because the world is holding its breath. The war has ended one regime, but it may have started something far larger. If you've stayed with us until the end of this analysis, let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Was the decapitation of the regime a necessary evil, or have we opened a door that can never be closed? We'll see you in our next deep dive.